Coming live from the studio, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for watching another episode of All Sports. This is your host Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I am going to talk about NFL football, NBA basketball, and college football. Before I start the show, I hope you all had a great week. To start off with NFL football, Tom Brady has joined Peyton Manning as the only players with 40-plus touchdowns with two different franchises. Tom Brady became the oldest player to ever throw 40-plus touchdowns in the season. Aaron Rodgers has joined Peyton Manning as the only quarterbacks to have 45-plus touchdowns in multiple seasons. Aaron Rodgers has tied Tom Brady for the most games in a single season in NFL history with 3-plus touchdown passes. Phillip Rivers has surpassed Hall of Famer Dan Marino for the 5th most touchdown passes in NFL history. Russell Wilson has surpassed Hall of Famer Dan Marino for the 2nd most touchdown passes in NFL history by a player in his first 9 seasons. Lamar Jackson is the first quarterback in NFL history with 1,000 rushing yards in back-to-back seasons. Justin Herbert is the youngest player in NFL history with 30 passing touchdowns in a single season. Deshaun Watson led the NFL with 4,823 passing yards. Derrick Henry led the NFL with 2,027 rushing yards. Derrick Henry became the 8th player in NFL history with 2,000 rushing yards in a single season. Derrick Henry now has back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. Josh Jacobs now has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Jonathan Taylor is the 3rd rookie in Colts history with 1,000 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns in a single season. Stephon Diggs led the NFL with 127 catches and 1,535 receiving yards. Mike Evans is the first player in NFL history with at least 1,000 receiving yards in each of his first 7 seasons. Davante Adams is the first player in NFL history with 18 touchdowns and 100 catches in a single season. Justin Jefferson has surpassed Anquan Boldin for the most receiving yards by a rookie in the Super Bowl era. Justin Jefferson has the most receiving yards by a rookie in Vikings history. DK Metcalf passed Hall of Famer Steve Largent for the most yards in a single season by a Seahawks wide receiver. Jason Witten has the most career appearances by a tight end in NFL history. TJ Watt led the NFL with 15 sacks. The Chiefs won the AFC West, and they will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the AFC. The Packers won the NFC North, and they will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. For the first time since 2002, the Browns have clinched a playoff berth. The Titans won the AFC South. Washington won the NFC East. The Ravens have clinched a playoff berth. The Bears have clinched a playoff berth. The Rams have clinched a playoff berth. The Colts have clinched a playoff berth. The Jets fired head coach Adam Gase. The Jaguars fired head coach Doug Marrone. The Chargers fired head coach Anthony Lynn. John Elway is stepping down as a general manager, and he will be taking an evaluated role in the Broncos organization, and he will still be the president of football operations. On Friday, January 1st, Hall of Famer and Broncos legend Floyd Little passed away. He was 78 years old. Brandon McManus has made an NFL record-tying 10 field goals from 50-plus yards this season. The Broncos lost to the Raiders 32-31 in Denver on Sunday, January 3rd. So now that we are in January, the regular season has come to an end for the Broncos and for the rest of the teams that did not make the playoffs. And for the NFL, it's a great time of year since we are now in January and the playoffs begin this week with Wild Card Weekend. Now there were 14 lucky teams, 7 from the AFC and 7 from the NFC, that made it into the playoffs this season. But unfortunately, there were many teams, including the Broncos, that did not make it into the playoffs, and their hopes is to get better this offseason so they have a chance in making it to the playoffs for next season. Now for the Broncos, it was another disappointing season for the Broncos, especially with the record they had and how they finished the season. But for the Broncos, it's going to take time for them to be good. Whether Drew Lock is their quarterback or they explore other quarterback options, we're going to have to wait and see. But for now, head coach Vic Fangio, quarterback Drew Lock, will get one more chance in 2021 to prove if they are the future for the Broncos. And if they're not, very likely the Broncos will move on from one or both of them after the 2021 season. Now, with everything that happened in 2020, especially in regards to the coronavirus pandemic, it was just great to see that there was a 2020 NFL season and that the Broncos were able to play this season with all the ups and downs, with the way they played. Unfortunately, they didn't win that many games, but with the young offense they have, the Broncos definitely have potential going into the future. They're not going to be able to flip a light switch and be good overnight, but they're looking like they're heading towards that direction. For the Broncos going into 2021 and going into the future, they have a lot of potential, especially with the young, talented offense that they have. And there's no doubt that at some point, with the offense they have and with the defense they have a a lot of potential, and they will be a good team down the road. Now we'll have to wait and see if that's in 2021, but if not, it's definitely going to be sometime down the road. But the Broncos look like they're going to be at a turning point and become a better team going into the future, especially with the young, talented offense they have. It's just going to take time for them to be good and become better so that they can win games, make it back into the playoffs, and hopefully win another Super Bowl down the road. But the Broncos definitely want to compete with the rest of the AFC West, since it's going to be a tough, competitive division. You got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You got the Chargers with Justin Herbert and a team that's going to be good going into the future. And you even got the Raiders that are pretty good as well. So, at least for now, the Chiefs are going to be competition. The Chargers are definitely going to get in that conversation, and potentially the Raiders. So it's not going to be easy to win the AFC West or to make it into the playoffs with all the competition in the division. And there's no doubt that the Broncos want to compete with the rest of the AFC West. And they don't want to be a team that has losing seasons and not make it into the playoffs. They want to be a winning team and they want to make it into the playoffs. But they are going to have to become better if they want to have that opportunity to compete with the AFC West. So for the Broncos this offseason, they will be looking for a new general manager. We'll have to wait and see who that is. The Broncos are definitely going to want to improve their team on offense and defense, especially on defense this offseason. They're definitely going to try to improve this team through free agency and the draft. And they're going to hope that they are a better team for the 2021 season. But the Broncos are going to explore all options, offense and defense, so that they will be a better team for next season. The quarterback question is still up in the air. Can Drew Lock still be the quarterback? We're going to have to wait and see. But there are going to be some quarterbacks on the market and in the draft. But I would definitely keep an eye on quarterbacks that are going to be on the free agency market, whether they're a free agent or through trades. The Broncos could definitely explore other quarterback options. They could also bring someone in to be competition to Drew Lock. They could also bring someone in to be a backup, just in case, you never know. But I would expect the Broncos to explore other quarterback options And if there's something better out there, I would not be surprised if they bring in somebody that makes it onto the free agent market. We're going to have to wait and see what happens during free agency and this off season. But the Broncos definitely want to turn the page from 2020 and be a better team in 2021. And it all starts this off season. This is the NFL Wildcard Weekend. So right now I'm going to update you with the current playoff picture for both the AFC and NFC. And I'm also going to tell you the NFL Wildcard Weekend schedule. So if we take a look at the playoff picture for the AFC and NFC, these are all the teams that made it into the playoffs. There were 14 teams, 7 from the AFC and NFC, that made it into the playoffs. Something that is different about the playoffs this season is that only the number 1 seed gets the first round bye, and they also get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Also, instead of 2 wildcard teams, there are now 3 wildcard teams in both the AFC and NFC. So those were some changes to the playoffs for this season. So if we take a look at the playoff picture, we're going to start off with the AFC. The Chiefs landed up getting the first seed. They won the AFC West, and they will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the AFC, and everything will go through Kansas City if the Chiefs happen to make it to the end. The Bills are the 2nd seed, and they won the AFC East. The Steelers are the 3rd seed, and they won the AFC North. The Titans are the 4th seed, and they won the AFC South. The Ravens are the 5th seed, they're the first wild card. The Browns are the 6th seed, they're the second wild card. And the Colts are the 7th seed, and they are the 3rd wild card. In the NFC, the Packers are the 1st seed. They won the NFC North, and they will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. And depending on how far the Packers go, especially if it's to the end, everything will go through Green Bay. The Saints are the 2nd seed, and they won the NFC South. The Seahawks are the 3rd seed, and they won the NFC West. Washington is the 4th seed, and they won the NFC East. The Buccaneers are the 5th seed, and they are the first wild card. The Rams are the 6th seed, and they are the second wild card. And the Bears are the 7th seed, and they are the 3rd wild card. So that is the current playoff picture for both the AFC and NFC. Something that stood out for this playoff picture for this season is the teams that made it into the playoffs this season, and some of the teams that made it into the playoffs for the first time in many years. The Bills finally won the AFC East. The Browns made it into the playoffs for the first time since 2002. Washington won the NFC East. With the record that all the teams had in the NFC East, any team could have made it into the playoffs. And they all had a chance, but with everything Washington has went through, with the name change from the Redskins, with Alex Smith coming back from a gruesome injury, and with Ron Rivera going through cancer, somehow Washington was able to win games when certain individuals were missing time, and they were able to win their division and make it into the playoffs. So regardless if you're a Washington fan or not, you have to congratulate Washington for everything they went through in the 2020 season on making it into the playoffs. Also, we had the Buccaneers make it into the playoffs for the first time since 2007. So regardless of what team you root for, or if your team's in the playoffs or they're not, there's definitely a few teams to congratulate on making it into the playoffs. Now that we know what teams have made it into the playoffs for this season, these are the teams that are going against each other during Wild Card Weekend. We have the Colts going against the Bills, the Rams going against the Seahawks, the Buccaneers going against Washington, the Ravens going against the Titans, the Bears going against the Saints, and the Browns going against the Steelers. For Wild Card Weekend, we definitely have some great games, some great matches. We also have some division teams going against each other for the third time this season. But overall, all the games are going to be great for Wild Card Weekend. We're going to have to wait and see what teams win and make it to the divisional weekend. We'll also have to wait and see who the Chiefs and the Packers will go against, since they have a first round bye for Wild Card Weekend. We'll have to wait and see what two teams make it to the AFC and NFC Championship game, and what two teams go against each other in Super Bowl 55, and what team wins Super Bowl 55. But this is only the beginning of the playoffs. Now that we know what teams are in the playoffs, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Anything can happen, regardless of what year it is. We have seen many things happen. Doesn't matter what teams are in the playoffs. Super Bowl 55 will be in Tampa this season. We'll have to wait and see what two teams go against each other and what team wins Super Bowl 55. We'll also have to wait and see what happens throughout the playoffs. Doesn't matter what seed you are. The playoffs are different from the regular season. Any team can make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter if you're the first seed or the seventh seed. Doesn't matter if you're at the top, the bottom, or in the middle. We have seen the top seeds make it to the Super Bowl. The wild card teams make it to the Super Bowl. We have seen the top team win the Super Bowl, a wild card team win the Super Bowl. Any seed in the playoffs has a chance at reaching and winning the Super Bowl. And we have definitely seen, regardless of what team it is that has made it into the playoffs over the course of many years, reach the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. No matter what seed they were, if they won their division, if they were a wild card team, any team can make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. The playoffs is different from the regular season. Anything can happen. We've seen teams win games we wouldn't have thought they would have won. We have seen surprises. We have seen blowouts. We have seen close games. So it doesn't matter what seed you are. All that matters is that you made it into the playoffs, and now you have to win. And if you don't win, you're going home. The playoffs is a different game. Anything can happen, and we have seen all kinds of situations and all kinds of outcomes happen. So anything can happen in the playoffs, and it's a great time of year for the NFL, since it's now time for the playoffs. And I am definitely looking forward to the playoffs for this season, and what two teams reach Super Bowl 55 and what team wins Super Bowl 55. We're just going to have to wait and see, but this is the beginning of the NFL playoffs. Moving on now to NBA basketball, Carmelo Anthony moved into 14th on the all-time scoring list. Damian Lillard moved into 18th in three-pointers made. LeBron James is the first player in NBA history to score 10-plus points in 1,000 consecutive regular season games. Becky Hammon became the first woman in NBA history to serve as a head coach during an NBA game after Greg Popovich got ejected during the Spurs game. On Saturday, January 2nd, Hall of Famer and legendary coach Paul Westbrook passed away. He was 70 years old. Moving on now to college football, Alabama beat Notre Dame 31-14 in the Rose Bowl game. Ohio State beat Clemson 49-28 in the All-State Sugar Bowl. Alabama will go against Ohio State in the 2021 College Football Playoff National Championship game on Monday, January 11 at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. We're just going to have to wait and see who wins the College Football Playoff National Championship game. Both Alabama and Ohio State have a chance at winning the national championship game, and of course Alabama is the favorite since they are the number one seed. but Ohio State is the number 3 seed. Both Alabama and Ohio State have a chance, even though Alabama is favored to win the national championship game. And we're just going to have to wait and see what team wins the national championship game. But the 2021 college football national championship game between Alabama and Ohio State is coming up in the next few days. Moving on now to the show, what to watch for this week in sports. The NFL wildcard weekend, the NFL playoffs, NFL football, the Nuggets, NBA basketball. Alabama will go against Ohio State in the 2021 College Football Playoff National Championship game on Monday, January 11 at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. The 2021 College Football Playoff National Championship game, college football, college basketball. Moving on now, on the next show I will talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college football. I hope you all have a great week. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next week. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.